Welcome back to Mostly Growth, the #1 podcast in product monetization. CJ, you're going to need a bigger moat.
Ah, man. How long have you had that dad joke circled for?
A long time. I mean, finally, distribution is the challenge. I love that we're in an environment where building products feels kind of easy. I mean, I still know nothing about code, so it's not easy for me, but seems relatively easy. The challenge is getting products in the hands of users, getting people actually pay attention. And I was curious, what's the most crazy distribution hack that you've seen or done?
I mean, we talk about Super Bowl commercials all the time, but I don't think that's crazy. It's just a big bet within your marketing portfolio. I think sending...
It is a $30 million, well-budgeted, well-prepared. It's definitely not done on a whim.
I got a much cheaper one than a Super Bowl ad. There was an auto tech company that we used to work with, and they would send thousands of dollars worth of large pizzas to garages they wanted to onboard. And then they would call the garage up and be like, hey, this is Jim from so-and-so. I just wanted to make sure you got those 5 large pepperoni pizzas. People don't hang up on you, surprisingly, if you're checking in that they got a free pizza. And the call after that, just to see if they're interested in your product, it's pretty smooth. So I thought that was your customer acquisition cost for a lot of these leads was legitimately a couple of pies.
I mean, hey, more people should do that, I think. I've got 2 examples. One, so back in VC days, we had a bunch of founders that just would not respond to emails, did not want to talk to us. And we had this one that was based in New York, and we sent a 23-year-old associate to go to their office and knock on their door to try to see them in person. Only the address he found was the founder's home address.
No.
So he showed up at the founder's apartment, knocked on the front door. He got a response. He met the founder.
They opened?
They did open. They probably thought they got DoorDash or something delivered. It's a VC associate.
Ben used to work with my wife at Profitwell, and they had an ABM team, account-based marketing, and her whole job was to figure out who's the person we're trying to impress. Let me find what they're interested in. Maybe if they're interested in golf, let's do something golf specific, but come up with a very catered specific message. And they would spend a decent amount on this stuff. And then they would send it to them. A lot of times, Ben, didn't you also do videos to say hey, this is so-and-so from Profitwell?
We filmed 2-minute 10 videos where the first 30 seconds was customized to the individual.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it was boilerplate, where we would just have a transition and we would record that in the same time. So it would be the same setting and sound and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel that video outreach had a moment in 2022 in particular that it was taking off, because it was you were willing to put in a little extra effort to make a video. There's one other example that I'm kind of obsessed with. It's this woman, Renee Shah from TLTV. Have you heard of her?
No.
So I don't know what her actual job is, but her job title on LinkedIn is your mom at TLTV.
That rocks.
It's an AI meeting note taker, but her headline is no more shit meetings. She does all of these stunts. She just promoted herself to CEO of the company. She calls herself an advisor to Sam Altman in a non-official capacity, receiving a cease and desist from him. She is just so willing to pull these stunts that get attention, and some of them are absolutely hilarious. I don't know how much business it drives, but they're very entertaining.
We should get her on the pod. This is hilarious.
She would be fantastic. I just want to learn how her brain works. Renee, if you're listening, or if someone knows Renee, tell her to come on Mostly Growth.
There's something simply to be said about just using a different tone that doesn't match the medium you're on. It's what's it called? A break frame or a break scroll that she's saying her position is your mom on a professional networking site. There's something about that, just junking up the game a bit.
It stops your scroll. Yeah. As you're going through, it's oh, this is not another Claude Code post.
This is definitely not AI.
This is not a comment for my Claude Code hack, which I feel is every other post. So whether or not these hacks work, today we're going to talk about distribution as a moat, or the age of distribution. Basically, if the cost of building products is going down to close to zero, how the hell do you get people to pay attention and buy the thing you're building?
Kyle, I think the inspiration for diving into this topic, although it's something that me and you literally think about every hour of every day because it's our business now, is there were 2 stories in the news about creators selling their businesses to tech companies that people have heard of, I guess on the premise of distribution, right? So the first one was Starter Story was purchased by HubSpot. So shout out to Pat Walls. He's a good guy. I've talked to him before. And then This Week in Fintech, bought by Plaid. So 2 deals that you would think that's a creator business, right? They have a very valuable list of potential customers, and these are well-known tech companies.
Oh yeah, I mean, This Week in Fintech, I don't know how much that acquisition was for, but it's a legit like media asset. And this is showing that brands are paying a lot more attention to distribution and even willing to acquire distribution, similar to how they would acquire maybe a technology company in the past.
Kyle, when you were a VC, I guess I can ask this 2 ways. Did you ever see a company that had great distribution, but like you don't have to say who it was, but in the back of your mind, you're like, this product actually isn't like a great product. It's just a good product. Or a company with an amazing product, but they just sucked at getting the word out?
So the latter, the great product, really bad marketing, was the most common. I mean, I'd say like 9 out of 10 Israeli companies that you meet would fall into that bucket. Just like super great technology, but then like the communication around it was like not there. And like there's just so much effort like to build something they thought was great that everything else kind of went to the wayside. In terms of a great marketing, but the product fell flat. I don't know if we had any Clulies, but the closest equivalent would probably be Calendly, not because it wasn't a great product. It's just more of like the number of times people said Calendly could be vibe coded like in a day or weekend is like insane relative to every other product. And yet their distribution was just so fantastic through the viral loop of Calendly that it like really didn't matter. It was a good product with a great UX, and the distribution was like probably the biggest moat in their business.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. I don't think the technical risk of creating Calendly is like on par with, putting a man on the moon, but it has the benefits of distribution, of brand love, and it just keeps on chugging.
I mean, it does. I mean, it's one of those things where anytime someone uses Calendly, in order to use it, they're inviting other people who might want to sign up for it themselves. So you just have this like infinite free marketing. There's not a whole lot of other companies that have that and have found, I would say, a hack where distribution is so much more advanced than product. I'd say like in 99% of the cases, the product is much better, or the product is great and all the resources go into making that even better. And people can't seem to find a way to get enough others to care about it.
Hey, thanks for listening. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
I've been writing my newsletter, Growth Unhinged, for exactly 5 years. When I went all in on it last year, I quickly decided it was time to make the switch to Beehive. Honestly, I wish I'd done it even sooner. Switching to Beehive was seamless, but the difference is real. Excellent deliverability, more customization, built-in automations, and no 10% tax on my revenue. As a data nerd, I especially love Beehive's dashboards and built-in surveys. My open rates jumped from 35% to 50% after switching to Beehive, and I'm not looking back. Beehive is built for people who actually take newsletters seriously. If you care about owning your audience, it's a no-brainer. Try Beehive for free by going to beehiiv.com. That's beehiiv.com. Use code Kyle30 for 30% off your first 3 months. When I looked to set up my first CRM at Growth Unhinged, I knew I wanted something that was actually AI first. The world has evolved. Most CRMs are still stuck in the 90s. I found Lightfield, the CRM that remembers everything and does the work for you. It joins all my sales calls, reads my emails, and has the full context on every account. At this point, Lightfield knows my deals better than I do. I haven't had to set up a single CRM dashboard. Instead, I simply ask Lightfield questions like, which deals in my pipeline are most likely to close, or who do I need to follow up with today? It even automatically prepares me for meetings with a personalized daily briefing, and setup was quick and surprisingly painless. Lightfield is my sales coach, RevOps analyst, therapist, EA, all in one. See Lightfield for yourself with a 14-day free trial. Connecting data from your inbox takes just 5 minutes, and you can migrate in under an hour. Go to lightfield.app, that's lightfield.app, and use code MOSTLYGROWTH to get 3 months free.
So I've actually got an example in the consumer space for you that I think falls in this category.
Go for it.
Have you ever tried Athletic Greens?
I have not tried it. I've seen their ads everywhere, but I've not clicked through.
It's probably not the best product out there. It's this gross green powder that I guess makes your gut health better, but they are the third largest podcast advertiser by total show count, and they spend more than $2 million
that
per month.
powder is the third largest podcast advertiser?
Yeah, in the world.
That's insane. Is it all of these like looks maxing or podcasts like the clavicular or whatever that guy's name is?
I went down a deep, dark rabbit hole on that. I did not have that on my bingo card for you to bring him up. Is my jawline square enough? But
It's not. You need to be learning from his hacks.
You gotta microdose some meth, man.
Tim Ferriss was one of their first sponsors ever, and he's like a smart guy, so he was on the train. But Joe Rogan, Andrew Huberman, Rich Roll, Dak Shepard, they're all long-term partnership deals. And Rogan apparently makes more than $10 million a year from Athletic Greens.
From Athletic Greens alone.
Just Athletic Greens.
Man.
So I don't know if he has equity, but this is like the inside scoop from my armchair research here. They do a couple of really interesting things with their partners. So the first one is whitelisting. So whitelisting is when a brand will run paid advertisements through the influencer's account. So it doesn't say Athletic Greens in like the YouTube square. It says like Joe Rogan podcast or something. And so a lot of influencers in the newsletter space will do this if they post on LinkedIn, where you can power somebody's post using the money from somebody else if you accept it. And it feels like more of this Trojan horse way to get in front of people. And so that's a more personalized way they do that. My friend Josh did this on the B2B side. So he's an accounting influencer and he worked with Intuit. And so he did this demo video of how Intuit and QuickBooks are supercharging their offering with AI, and he recorded a video for them. They did this deal where hypothetically they give him an amount to go and make the video. Then they've come up with a split on, we're going to plow, let's say, I'm just making up numbers here, $10,000 in advertising. You get 1x whatever we put in. The video he has on YouTube, Kyle, it has 1 million views now. So they've essentially used this video as a commercial through his account.
When in the B2B side, you see this a little bit in LinkedIn. I mean, they're still probably early on it, but LinkedIn has thought leader ads where you can pay to boost someone else's post. Usually an influencer, that influencer could be at your company, but they don't have to be. They could be anywhere else. And that's going to look much more like an organic post. It's going to be from an individual. It's probably content that performs well. And then when you pay for it, the ROI on the paid spend is great because it's just content that would have done well, whether it was paid or not.
Yeah. And then this is the other thing that Athletic Greens does really well. And this is like, it's hard to get off the crack pipe here. They give away approximately 20% for every sale if somebody uses your code. And this is you can think about it like a subscription product,
So
right?
do they pay for this, like the ad, and they pay a referral fee?
And they pay, yeah. And so this is
So
where
you're really incentivized not just to like take the ad slot, but like really push it hard.
Oh, like hardcore. Because if you get somebody who buys every month for 3 years, you're getting 20% of that over time. And so this is an example, I think, of distribution as a moat where this is not like the best product in the world. I'm sure in a lab, they could create something that maybe had somewhat better scientific or health results. But because you have the right people behind it, more importantly, incentivizing them in the right way, they're killing it as a consumer company.
Well, I think very few B2B companies are anywhere near this far along as like consumer companies in terms of working with influencers and creators. But you have an ability to get in front of usually like a pretty large audience in your niche and also someone that has influence over that audience. And in B2B, I think there's just not as many people that have that large of an audience. It's more, it's also like harder to tell who someone audience is because someone could have 100,000 followers that could be irrelevant or could be like precisely the decision makers you care about. It's really hard to tell. But I think one of the things these like great programs have in common is it's often working with a smaller number of people and signing longer term engagements. So not doing like one ad here and there, but like sometimes it's like a year-long partnership and going like really big with, a couple of people.
Yeah, and AG1 said that their partnerships are a minimum of 6 months. Most of them are at least 12 months. So they're playing a long-term game, which did surprise me because when I think about B2C marketing, it's like, okay, here's an ad for Ray-Bans. How many purchases of Ray-Bans were there? They take more of a let's spread out our surface area for good things to happen. And we think that by betting on this person over time, people hear it enough times to eventually convert.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where if you can lock in with for a year with a creator that's fast growing, their audience obviously like starts to know you extremely well at that point, but also you've blocked out any competitors. I mean, if you're doing an annual deal with a creator, you probably have some sort of exclusivity in your category, and that means distribution is like quite literally a moat because no one else can take that distribution.
It's a cornered resource, I think is what you're saying.
Well, exactly. It's something that gives you a strength that your competitors in the market can't keep up with. And I think it's interesting to see in B2B, we're still quite early here, but I think both of us are living this with, brands, you being in the more finance space, me being in the growth and monetization space. Like, sometimes I think there's more brands reaching out about partnering than there are people reading my newsletter. It's like truly insane. I probably get like 5 to 10 notes per day from brands. So like clearly brands are trying to tap into this, but I think most of them go at it a really bad way, thinking that it's like, hey, let's just do a sort of a one-off thing to dip our toe in the water versus building like deeper relationships over a longer period of time.
And it's not just the ad model. I'm really curious because I saw you launch this bundled perks program. I'm curious how you figured out that this was even an option, and then how do you operationalize this? Like, how does it work?
Well, and so I really ripped off Lenny Rachitsky in doing this. So what Lenny had done is he had a product pass where he got a bunch of great companies to offer like year-long free trials of products to people that were paid subscribers. And I was like, this is super interesting. Like his product pass is very product management focused. Could I do something like that on the go-to-market side? And what I've been noticing is like a lot of brands really love these partnerships because I don't take a referral fee on any of these. I really just am doing distribution for them. So I'm getting their product in the hands of users that would be a good fit. It's highly curated. Like I'm only giving these sort of promo codes to paid subscribers. And often to redeem a paid subscription or paid code, you have to like put in a credit card so that if you have a 3-month extended trial, you're converting to paid at the end of that trial. And so I would expect like pretty high conversion for sticky products. And you're essentially trading any spend that you would have on marketing, that you're just basically spending the money instead of marketing just to go towards like product and supporting free users. But I see granola doing this like crazy. I mean, I'd love for my partners to make this exclusive with me, but like granola and Lovable and some of the other brands that do this kind of do this with any creator that wants to do it, clearly because it's working well for them.
Wait, go back. You're not making money off of like a percentage of the discount. I figured that if it's 30% off Lovable, 15%, I don't know, split with the customer, 15% to you or something. I don't know how the math works, but what's the benefit for you?
I could take a cut if I had wanted to, but my preference was just to pass along more savings for the customer. I didn't want this to be an ad for a bunch of products. I wanted that, like, the ethos for me, like why doing it is there are a bunch of products that my readers like and they want to have access to. And if I can give them savings on those tools, that's more money they can spend supporting my newsletter. I've just figured, hey, it's a great sweetener for the paid subscription. And it's a reason for people to stick around and renew their paid subscription because I'm adding more and more great stuff in the bundle.
Okay, that's the hitch right there. And by the way, I converted to paid before you even had this bundle, so I didn't get any of this cool free shit, Kyle. But
You can still use the products.
oh, I can't. But do I have to pay full price? I don't want to do that.
No, the bundle is for like anyone that's a paid subscriber.
Okay. Yeah, Lenny was saying anecdotally that he got a big bump in paid subscribers because I'm making it up. He's like, I have $20,000 worth of value behind this paywall, and all you have to do is pay $20 per month.
So I have not seen a massive bump in a conversions for this, but I have seen a number of like a great number of redemptions, which shows at least like my paid subscribers are finding it valuable. I think one of the companies I have in the bundle, they've had 250 redemptions, and like they're one of 19 companies or that have products in the bundle. And like even if you just adopt one of the products, that savings alone pays for an annual subscription to Growth Unhinged. So I like to think of it as like, hey, hopefully this makes people feel like they're getting their money's worth, and will encourage them to renew that subscription.
So for the benefit of listeners, I'm hoping you can explain this line here because I think it dovetails nicely into the next example we have here. So you said your CAC is essentially just giving the product away versus spending on marketing. What does that mean?
Exactly. Well, the first example, the Athletic Greens example, this is a lot of marketing spend, right? Like you're really spending money on marketing through a creator channel and through ads essentially with those creators just to get a much better ROI than what you would in a classic Meta or Google ad. With this perks type of offering, you're essentially using free products as an acquisition vehicle. So any cost of supporting free users, essentially what you're paying, and you're hoping that enough of those free users convert that your CAC payback period is healthy. But your CAC, your cost of acquisition, isn't actually marketing spend. It's the spend of supporting these free users that don't convert.
So I have another example of that, CAC showing up on a different place on the P&L.
What's that?
So if you think about what a Cursor or a Lovable or a Replit are doing, they're losing a ton of money to give away credits for free. So they're not out there paying for a ton of paid acquisition or advertisements. They're deciding to use a lot of that money to pay for inference. So in that sense, it's inference costs as distribution.
Well, I think this goes back to like a free product or freemium product is an acquisition strategy, right? Like we talked about before with free to paid conversion, there's a penny gap phenomenon where people are way more likely to try something that's free compared to if it even costs 1 penny to use. And so they're kind of saying, hey, just like we're going to make it really easy to use our product. We're actually even going to let you use the product without creating an account, because we think that this is a sticky product or like there's a cool aha moment here. And once people see that, or if they see it enough times, they'll eventually take out the credit card.
Does Lovable even make you create an account, or can you literally just go and type something in and it builds it?
So this is where they've definitely been doing some experimentation over time, probably because of Elena Verna, their head of growth. When I started using Lovable, I didn't need to do it. I didn't need to create an account at all.
I didn't think I did either.
Typed in a prompt and it started making something for me. Now they make you create an account and they're kind of like, hey, we're like thinking or like help us personalize this for you. And so they make you add an email, and then they actually also add some onboarding questions to understand who you are and what you're trying to do with Lovable. They frame it as like helping improve your experience, but I think a lot of it is just, hey, this is going to be, if they're going to be giving away all of this stuff, they should at least collect your email, be able to market to you, take you on a journey with their product.
While we're on the topic of Lovable, it actually inspired me for another method of distribution here.
What is that?
So I call it winning at the defaults. So I was creating something on Lovable to use internally here at Mostly Media, and it defaulted me to use Supabase as the backend database provider. It wasn't like, here are 17 different choices or go pick your own. It actually went and like created an account for me or pushed me on the page to create an account for Supabase. But it was very clear that if I wanted to continue and actually have data in this thing, so it just wasn't an empty shoebox, I had to connect it to Supabase. And I don't know if Supabase is paying Lovable anything, but that is extremely valuable real estate.
When we talked about AI agents choosing products increasingly, and I think this is one of the early ways where it's showing up is like you're trying to build something with a Lovable, a Replit, a Claude Code, and it has a preferred option, and maybe that preferred option is because it's like trained on that, or there's a native integration, or hey, this has the best API for Lovable to use. Whatever it is, like they have certain defaults. And it would take extra cognitive load to go figure out what might be a better product. And you tend to just trust the default that the AI agent recommends. And I think this is where there's an interesting distribution play for a lot of companies. It's probably a combination of partnerships. Like I'm sure there's a Supabase Lovable like relationship somewhere, but also just making your product really easy for agents to use. Vercel's doing a lot around that. Vercel even has like an open source skills directory where you can download like Claude skills to teach Claude how to use Vercel for different use cases. And I think the idea is like, hey, we're going to pre-train Claude to be great at Vercel so that Vercel is now the best product for Claude to use anytime it's relevant.
I don't think this is just exclusive though to AI native products though, Kyle. I think a lot of legacy SaaS companies can become the default XYZ, the default CRM, the default procurement application, the default fill in the blanks here for a company that is crushing it like a Cursor or a Lovable with the front end distribution of it, but they either don't have the technical expertise in-house, at least now until they decide to compete with you, or they just don't want to do that thing because it's messy and not their core competency.
I mean, this was part of the PartsTech growth strategy, right?
You nailed it. And so for people who haven't heard me drone on about my experiences there, we were the procurement application for aftermarket auto parts. So you go in to get your brake pads fixed in the garage, you have to order it from somewhere. But they manage the entire shop on what's called a shop management system. And so the shop management systems, many of them tried to go out and build a similar parts catalog, but it was way too much work. It's extremely fragmented amongst the suppliers and the manufacturers. So the supplier being like an AutoZone or a Napa, and then the manufacturers like a Bosch, a BP, fill in the blanks with the long tail of over 5,000 different manufacturers out there. And so in order for their SMS to be stickier, you had to give them some sort of way to actually order those parts to the bay in which you're fixing the car. And so we worked out deals where we were the exclusive provider. And so we had very little marketing costs in the way of like traditional sales and marketing costs. We were not out there like on Meta paying a ton for or on Google AdWords, but we were investing heavily in partnerships.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for this is that there needs to be a complementary product that already has distribution. So you're essentially borrowing their distribution, but then your product needs to be pretty hard for them to replicate or build. And like, I think for a lot of these types of opportunities, if you partner with another company and your product takes off within their product, they're going to be like, oh shit, we would make so much more money if we went and built this thing and just ripped you out and sold it to our users directly. And so it needs to be either like significantly outside of their core competency or very hard to build, where they're always going to prioritize building something else.
Yeah, the list that I came up with is that you either have to have first-party data they can't replicate from history, like you've been doing it for a while. They can't just go and find like what a brake pad is for a 1993 Honda Civic. Cornered experts, so some industries still just require people who know shit. Regulatory complexity, so you chewed glass to do some sort of painful certification or licensing work, and they can take advantage of that overhead. Or you have network effects where your product gets better with the more people who are on it, and that's hard to keep up with.
For businesses that can tap into it, this is an awesome channel. Another channel that I've seen popping up more and more. So we talked about like with creator programs, both like paying a ton to get advertising on a Rogan, but also even like caring so much about these creators that if you're like a Plaid or a HubSpot, you start buying what their media assets and what they're creating. I think more and more companies are saying, hey, there's probably a third way. Why don't we build this internally and essentially hire in-house creators? We're both on Beehive, for example, as our newsletter platform. Beehive actually has one of the best newsletters for creators. I'm subscribed, like I read it all the time. It's called Creator Spotlight. They've got almost 400,000 subscribers in this newsletter, like 40% open rate. And it's like a pretty full-on media brand with a newsletter, podcast, website, events. And they have third-party advertising with brands like Google. And it's weird to think of this as like...
Wait, they make money off advertising?
Yeah, this is like owned and run by Beehive, but they have third-party advertising on it. So it's like, I think it's probably a profitable business. It probably makes them more money just running it than it costs them. And then it also promotes Beehive.
Be honest though, how many times have you seen a brand successfully create some sort of media outlet in-house? It didn't come across as like, bleh.
That is fair. It's very hard for brands to do it without immediately trying to make it commercial and all about their own products. HubSpot has a couple of these decent properties, especially around like their Marketing Against the Grain podcast, and I think they've bought a bunch of media properties, but I think that's given them the skill to build these themselves too. Ben is former Profitwell. I do think Profitwell was quite good. Probably combination of you and Patrick Campbell, Ben.
Yep.
Yeah, the pricing page teardown videos and all of the other media assets were like, that was a pretty, impressive business in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, there probably are way more failures than there are success stories here.
Yeah. I think if you can pull it off, it means your content is good enough to stand on its own, right? It's not just like some stodgy brand and you're like, we're cool too. We hired this person to write about why CRMs are fun. Like it has to be good shit. You can't just be like, we have this thing now, therefore it deserves your attention.
It needs to be content that's so good, people want to share it with other people. And ideally, it's so good that people would even be willing to pay for it if you started charging for it. Like that level of content probably means like instead of hiring a content marketer who's like writing some like clickbait garbage and you're paying them like, 70,000 a year, you're maybe paying someone like 300K a year who's like the absolute best expert in the space that you write about and like knows how to like has a great network of people they can interview, like really great at data-driven reporting, like someone like that that's a pretty expensive hire. But if we're talking about like an Athletic Greens and how much they're spending on creators, like you could start to do the math and, build versus buy. And you start to say, hey, it's pretty interesting to build this internally.
Yeah, totally. And HubSpot did that with My First Million. I listen to that podcast all the time. It's technically a HubSpot podcast now. And so they didn't create that in-house, but they said this would look great if we did bring it under the umbrella.
Yeah, I think, and I'm expecting to see more and more of this, but folks need to just be cognizant about hiring the right talent to run it and giving them a lot of independence so it doesn't feel like an ad the whole time. Another example that's like related to this is like community plays. And so I think of like if the creator approach, like with Beehive and Creator Spotlight, is to create a media brand around your target customer or your audience. The community play is like to turn that audience into the kind of core champion and mobilize them around the kind of thing that you're trying to get them to do. And so there's a ton of great examples. I think Lovable does an awesome job with this. They have like hackathons and she builds, and they have like a product hunt for lovable products, and like they're making this whole community effort to teach people Lovable and to show off some of the best Lovable creators. But there's other things like there's a legal AI company called GCAI that I featured them in one of my recent reports. Legal is a notoriously hard space to get people's attention. Like a general counsel doesn't care about your software product usually, but what GCAI does is they teach AI for legal courses on Maven. They're teaching lawyers how to use AI for legal, and their founder is a former general counsel at top companies. And so this is run by her. They've now taught thousands of lawyers how to use AI. And she told me that at one point, 23% of people that took one of their Maven classes ultimately paid for their product. That's like insanely high conversion, but like people come because they all want to learn new AI skills. And, you could be the one who teaches them.
I didn't know that a lawyer could take a Maven course via fax machine.
You were sitting on that joke.
I was sitting on that one for a while.
There's one other play we haven't talked about yet, but the other things that it's coming up more and more. I call it the Cluely model.
Is it just like say ridiculous shit and see what sticks?
Basically, I mean, it's like stunts and guerrilla marketing. Like at this point, it feels like the louder you are or like the crazier things you're doing, the more people know who you are, like the more attention you get. It's kind of like what celebrities I feel like do, or like Real Housewives would do. Like, hey, you ratings are down. Let's just start a fight on TV. That'll bring ratings back up. I don't know how well these work for like B2B products, but it feels like I'm seeing this more and more where people trying to create attention. And, there is something to be said for like, you do remember the names of these brands that are out there.
Well, you know who the OG of this is? It's Red Bull.
Well, say more.
Do you remember when they had the guy jump out of basically like a spaceship? He was at a height that was above, Ben, what was it? He was above the
Common line?
atmospheric. What's that invisible line called? Ozone layer? I don't know. He was technically in space.
Am I coming through? Did you hear common line?
Is that what it's called?
Common line.
I think so.
We did hear that. It just sounded like a made up thing. So I just
Yeah,
didn't.
just didn't seem reliable.
Damn, I'm dropping knowledge.
But he jumped
I
out of
mean,
the
Red Bull
plane.
gives you wings, right? If by
Yeah,
drinking Red Bull, they
and he
could just
landed
fly.
on like a circus net down below, but he was like way, way, way above 40,000 feet. Ben, do you know how many feet it was?
Felix Baumgartner.
That also sounds made up.
It's a real guy. He said there were 24 miles, and there's no like line or anything it says, but 24 miles high.
The video's nuts, but they have a lot of things like this. I remember being in middle school, me and my friends would watch the videos of mountain bikers and stuff going down like courses that a human should not be able to go down at those speeds. They also did, I think, the land record of how fast you could go in a car on like the salt plains in Utah or something. So there are all these different videos that just make you think, oh, this is extreme and it's a stunt that's newsworthy. And so what they're doing is they're investing a lot in doing this thing, but they're hijacking the news cycle so others go and promote it.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for B2B companies to do this because, like, in general, a lot of this content needs to be like pretty entertaining stuff in order for others to pay attention to it. Like, it either needs to be extremely entertaining or extremely educational, and then even like balancing those two is hard to do. But on the entertaining side, I'm trying to think of like brands that have done this well. I mean, I do like some of what Clay's doing here. They'll have some of their employees or like influencers they work with like build a clay table while they're like on the subway, or like teach a pizza shop owner how to build a clay table like relevant to growing their business. And they're making these like pretty interesting videos that tie back to their product, but they're also kind of stunts to show off what the product can do.
Ramp did the Kevin from the Office stunt where they had a bunch of people dress up like Kevin from the Office and come to a Super Bowl tailgate, and some of them actually got to go to the game. And then they have like 50 people in one row that they bought all the tickets and they're all dressed like Kevin. It's pretty hilarious.
That is actually pretty awesome. Yeah, we'll have to see if people know of B2B companies that are doing this well, or if they know Renee from TLDV. We'd love to hear more of these success stories.
Next up, we have got a potentially reliable thing that some of you guys have read at 2 a.m.
All right. The thing I read was a scoop about how OpenAI's ad pilot has been doing. So we talked about the ad opportunity at OpenAI. We talked about how Anthropic hated on it, which I think was a strategic mistake on their part, but doesn't seem to be hurting them. Any idea how much revenue this is generating now that it's 6 weeks in?
So what's the total revenue 6 weeks in?
Or what's the annualized recurring revenue?
This is such a dirty thing they do. Take 6 weeks and then multiply by
And then basically say it's ARR. Fair.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, could they have hit 100 million already?
It passed 100 million in 6 weeks, which is pretty impressive. I mean, they're going to need to be on a probably $1 billion plus run rate within a year, and so they don't shut this down. Like I've just like, even like if they're at $1 billion in a year, they could probably still shut it down. But either way, it's like impressive that they've signed up this many advertisers and they've really been scaling to this audience. They've said 85% of their free and go users in the US are eligible to see ads, but less than 20% of users are shown ads on a daily basis, which makes me think like there's still a lot more ad inventory they need to build up because they have a lot more audience than they have ads. But I'm personally seeing ads on ChatGPT all the time. I was searching for CRM stuff recently. I saw ADIO advertising on ChatGPT. Like it's pretty clear their ads, like they're not trying to make them like a secret or something. But I'd say like they've gotten the relevance to what you're searching for down decently well.
Well, we've talked about this before. You can kind of charge whatever the hell you want to for the first 6 weeks of a pilot. What we don't know is how many of these sponsors are going to renew.
We don't know how many sponsors are going to renew, and we don't know if OpenAI is giving them enough tools to have the data to make good renewal decisions. And with advertisers, like, yeah, they're willing to put a little bit of money down on just about anything to see if it works, but you'll maybe ramp up spend 10, 20, 30x if it does work. And that's going to be the trick to whether this succeeds.
One could argue that Google's greatest invention was not the ads and blue links themselves, but it was the auction system that surrounds the AdWord campaigns. that allowed it to thrive without it making like Google was the asshole who is charging you so much. It's like, it's just the market forces.
Well, their ad model was very smart, but because of I think the auction model was quite interesting. But then also, they don't just go with whoever bids the highest amount. They go with a combination of the highest bidder, but also which ads have the best click-through rate. Because if your ads have a high click-through rate, even if you're paying less per click, they're going to make more money on your ads than if your ad has a low click-through rate. They had this like really interesting invention where they both encouraged you as the advertiser to bid things up, but also made you want to have better creative that people acted on.
It's a good one.
You have anything reliable?
No, I don't.
Mostly Growth is a Mostly Media production. Executive produced by Ben Hillman. That's me. Additional production by Steve Sarasoli. Nothing said on this podcast is intended to be business or investment advice. It's the sole opinion of CJ, Kyle, and Ben. Just some guys who love talking growth. Mostly. If you like this podcast, hit subscribe and give us 5 stars. It'll only take like 2 seconds and our algorithm overlords love it. Drink water, call your mom, and have a great day.